Hello, I'm a woman in my mid-40s who runs an old-fashioned barbecue chicken joint with my husband. We had lots of ups and downs with crises, but we are now somewhat stable. The reason I am sending this story is to talk about an unexpected encounter at the time of crisis in my life. It has been over 10 years already. My husband and I grew up poor and started our newlywed life in a small studio as a working couple. My husband was a salesperson for a small company, and I worked at various restaurants in the kitchen or serving, barely making it. Then, one day, I saw my husband exhausted, unlike his usual energetic self. It was because of his work. He said that the contract he had secured after hard work was snatched away by his boss's nephew, who got hired just because he was a relative. Like when such stealing was repeated every time, my husband couldn't bear it any longer and had lost his desire to work. Even though he kept his resignation letter in his pocket, he had to put up with it because of me. I felt so sorry for my husband and told him, "Why don't you just quit? Which will get by somehow." However, he wouldn't say that he would quit, so I forced him. "Honey, you've worked so hard all this time and also will do in the future. If your company doesn't value you, it's better to resign now." My husband felt conflicted, but eventually he submitted his resignation the next day. Just with my husband's severance pay and some money I had saved, we decided to open a small BBQ chicken place. However, nothing in this world is easy. But with the money we had, we couldn't rent in a good location, let alone a small space anywhere. After much deliberation, we gave up our studio apartment, and adding the deposit from it, we were able to rent a shop in a flea market. Fortunately, the shop had a small room for sleeping. The difficulties continued, however. The neighboring merchants were very territorial, and due to our inexperience, the chicken didn't taste right. As men toiled night and day, trying not to repeat his failure. I also did my best to help my husband, trying to save our business. If our business didn't go well, I feared that my husband would blame himself and thought he may never recover. Fortunately, as time passed, the merchants became less territorial and our chicken started to gain recognition. After hard work, our chicken menu steadily got popular. The place became a favorite local gathering place, and as word of mouth spread, the sales also increased. The flea market was filled with the smell of our BBQ chicken from our store. It's around the time our restaurant was fully established when the fish granny started showing up at the flea market. She was nicknamed that because of the rotten fish she ordered from her clothes. Even the granny seemed to know that, so she would look around her nervously and deliberately walked a long way around to avoid people. I heard about the granny from a nearby merchant. She said that granny has some kind of disease that causes such body odor. When I heard that, it reminded me of my mom, who had a big burn scar on her face, and people stared at her. So she avoided people. Growing up watching my mother like that, my heart went out for the granny. Then one day, as usual, the aroma from our barbecue chicken filled the flea market. That's when the granny appeared at the flea market, self-conscious of other people. She knocked on our door. Until then, I had never met her that close, and when I opened the door, her fishy odor suddenly rushed into our restaurant. The bad odor caused our regular patrons, who were drinking in the store, to frown with their complaints that the smell made them lose their appetite. Uneasy with the hostile atmosphere, Granny ran out of the restaurant and placed her order by keeping her distance from us. Patrons, if you would just fill the order, I'll take it and leave quickly. I have money, so don't worry. I'm not a beggar. It seemed that she really craved our chicken for her to risk people's hostility to come to our place. Understood how she felt at once and was troubled for a while because of her stench. I wasn't troubled that Granny would disrupt our business. I was troubled that Granny would be hurt by our customers. I wanted to find a solution where Granny could sit and eat comfortably at our restaurant. And I was able to find a perfect solution. I asked Granny, we have a small room at the back of the restaurant. If it isn't too uncomfortable for you, could we seat you here? It wouldn't be uncomfortable in my situation. I'm only grateful for giving me such a seat. Granny was very polite and gentle. I immediately escorted her to our room. Then, to make up for the offensive treatment by our customers, I catered to her to serve the chicken on us. However, she insisted on paying for it and would not accept it for free. In fact, she only ate 2 pieces of the chicken and apologized for the leftovers. I'm sorry I left it so much. It's delicious, but because I'm old, I'm not able to eat a lot. Then she hurriedly left the store. I felt sorry for her and followed after her and told her, holding her hands tightly, please feel free to come at any time whenever you crave for our chicken. That's okay. If an old lady like me keeps coming, I would only cause inconvenience to your business. That's no such thing to us. Just more, you're our customer like anyone else. Annie just smiled, and I didn't know whether she agreed with me or not, but she left. Then a few days later, Granny came back to our restaurant. As like the first time, she just stood outside, unable to come in, so I opened the door for her. I'm so sorry. I guess my palate returned at my old age, so it came again. My husband and I led Granny to our room. After that day, Granny came by often and ate a few pieces of chicken as her meal. Then we realized that her entire meal for the day was what she ate at our restaurant. I wanted to wrap the leftover chicken to go so that she would not skip her meals. However, Granny said she had nobody at home to share the food with and declined it. My husband and I felt sorry for her plight, but we didn't let on in case we might offend her. Many years passed since Granny had been coming to our restaurant. It was near Thanksgiving holidays, and I said, Granny, I'll pack some food for the holidays. For the holidays, it's Thanksgiving in 2 days. Thank you, but it's okay. I've no one at home, and I feel bad to trouble you. I'm not giving this to you. I need a favor from you. What an old lady like me could do for you. I need you to taste the food and evaluate it for me. My mom passed away when I was young, so I didn't get to learn how to make Thanksgiving meals. But was my excuse too obvious? Granny looked worried. She hesitated for a long time, But after my husband and I repeated, she accepted the food sheepishly, and that day was the turning point to cement our relationship. In the meantime, other merchants would gossip about Granny. "You seem so big-hearted, or do you have an allergy that you can't smell anything?" "That's what are you talking about?" "Well, if I were you, I wouldn't want to be next to that fishy Granny in case the smell is transferred to me." "Well, I looked up her symptoms and it's not a transferable disease." "Whether that's true or not, her smell is getting worse." "Don't say that. It's not as if she wants to be like that. But what I'm saying is that her mere presence gives me the shivers." I guess people just gossip like that because making a living is hard, and working at the flea market is exhausting, that picking on someone may help to forget their harsh life for a moment. And that's why some merchants talk against Granny like that. I felt it wasn't right to pick on someone's weakness to laugh at. There's something one as a human being should not talk in such a manner. I might condone it if Granny had done anything wrong. Anyway, I couldn't stand it any longer when she said, "Darn it, I crucible urchins befinaptium Granny again. She ruins my day. Can't we report her anywhere?" "Report her? Report her where? Since she smells, please arrest her because you feel bad. Do you think you're making any sense?" "Hey sister, why do you get all wired up whenever I bring up that rotten-smelling Granny? By any chance, did that Granny pay you or something? How many people in this world that are rotten inside with a rotten odor? At least that Granny is a good person. She doesn't deserve to hear you say that." While I was trying to deter the merchants bad-mouthing her, my husband devoted himself to Granny. But because of her bad teeth, she couldn't eat a whole chicken with bones, so he developed a new menu. Even though boneless chicken was a common menu, it was a big challenge for us. Fortunately, we succeeded in developing a boneless chicken menu, and Granny was able to eat more. It had been about 10 years that we had known each other, if I remember correctly. But around that time, rumors began to circulate that a large mart would be opening in the flea market. Although all the merchants were full of worries that the damage would be greater if a mart opened because food traffic had been decreasing. Because of that, merchants became more hostile toward others. The merchants seemed to take their anger out on Granny and began to despise her even more. She became someone for them to kick around. Also, their despise extended to my husband and me. They were upset that we were defending Granny. Thus, overnight, we became a target of their attack. They spread rumors that we were unscrupulous people who were vying for Granny's money. Because it was so ridiculous, we decided to shut our ears and endure it. However, eventually, our patience ran out and a big fight broke out between the merchants and us. The merchants continued to insult Granny, my husband, and me at every turn whenever they got the chance. Never mind us, but it was outrageous when they treated Granny as if she was an infectious patient or germ. My husband and I were at a loss for words because of their harsh expletives that we cannot even repeat. And apparently, Granny was listening to all those mean words. Granny was quietly leaving, so I ran to her to hold her hand. "But weren't you coming to a restaurant?" Don't go and come with me and eat some chicken. You haven't eaten yet, right? It's okay. I have no appetite today. If it is because of what they said, just ignore them. Do you know what's good about getting old? I have bad ears and dim eyes, so I haven't seen anything nor heard anything. Thank you for everything so far, and will bless you. Granny tried to pull her hands free and leave. No, you must come with me. Today I'll cook you something other than chicken. Then I took Granny to our place for everyone to see. Although the merchant snickered at us, I paid no attention nor worried about it. Granny cleaned up her plate, eating everything I cooked, but she stopped coming to our restaurant after that day. My husband and I became an official outcast among the merchants. Well, I thought it was better that way. I had no respect for any of them whatsoever and did not want to talk with them. Moreover, my husband and I decided to look for a new place and leave there. On top of that, the expiration of the lease agreement was coming up, so we went looking for a new place. Thanks to our hard work, we got lucky to find a good location and lease a clean commercial space. Then a tragic thing happened a few days before we were to pay the final deposit on our store. I was cleaning up in the new store when my husband ran in with his face all white. Honey, please be calm and listen to me. What? Did you realize only now? What? Yesterday was our wedding anniversary. Are you like this because you feel bad that you forgot and let it pass? No, not that. Perhaps, is it about the granny? Has she passed away? My husband just sat down and wept, unable to speak. It took him a long time before he could speak. When I heard the story, I started to curse everything in the world. I wondered if I was being punished for my past life, where I must have put a lot of people in turmoil by playing with fire. Was the punishment being continued to the next generation? My dad died in a fire, and my mom was branded for life with big burn scars on her face, and it seemed that I became the next victim. While we were away, there was a huge fire in the flea market. I need to get the goodwill payment from the sale of our restaurant in the market to pay for the final deposit on our new store, but our restaurant was burned to the ground. My husband and I, who lost everything in an instant, put our last hope on the fire insurance money. But I couldn't even get my insurance money properly because the construction regulations were amended and our restaurant in the flea market was deemed unapproved space with no permit except for a room where we slept. The insurance payment was not enough to cover the final deposit. We tried to find ways to raise money to pay the balance of the deposit, but failed with the due date just around the corner. Thus, we even lost the initial deposit we made and were facing being out on the streets with nothing. My heart broke when my husband, who was in shock and would not budge, said, "I got a job to work on a ship referred through a friend from my hometown." Ship? What ship? I'm very lucky since it's not a deep-sea fishing boat. What do you mean you are lucky? Actions, whether or not it's a fishing boat. Working on any ship is so dangerous. However, I can't just sit and not work when I'm all healthy and able. It pays better than working at a construction site. My husband smiled at me as if a father was trying to comfort a young daughter who was worrying about him. When my senses came to, I realized that I was saying farewell to my husband, who was going far away. I wanted to ask him not to leave, but I couldn't open my mouth. I knew working on a ship was dangerous, but at that time, I knew nothing better but to follow my husband's wishes as we were desperate. At that time, I knew nothing better but to follow my husband's wishes as we were desperate at that time. I finally got hold of myself when I felt the empty space left by my husband. I should try to at least earn money enough to get us a place on my own, so that when he returns he is comfortable home to rest. So I went around town looking for a job at any restaurant. However, because the merchants had spread nasty rumors about me, no one would give me a job. I broke down in despair, and I plopped down on the spot where our restaurant was burned to the ground, drinking myself. Then from a distant away, a familiar and welcoming smell came to stir me. Indeed, it was our granny, whom we hadn't seen for a while. Finally, we meet again. I thought you had gone far away north into the mountains. Have you been waiting for me? Wait, I came by every day. You should be punished for making an old lady come by for nothing. Her joking made me smile without realizing it. Have you eaten yet? Did you not eat again? Can't you tell? I'm starving. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm unable to cook you anything right now. Why? Because you have no kitchen. Well, yeah, I think you're right. And today, Granny just grabbed my hand and dragged me somewhere. It was the construction site where the large mart was half built. Why did you bring me here? Well, at my old age, my taste buds returned and I kept craving for your BBQ chicken. Oh, Granny, so you should run your restaurant here. But when this is all built, I'll give you one space. Later, I learned that Granny was the building owner of the large mart that was being constructed in the flea market. But occasion, it wasn't a big corporate chain, but a reputable local chain market was contracted to move in. It was awkward and I hesitated when Granny made me change my mind. If you don't accept this, I'll be very disappointed. Please accept the place as my payment for all the trouble I caused you. Oh, Granny, it was no trouble at all, and this is too much for us to accept. Who would say I'll give it to you for free? Still, it's all the more very difficult because you know our current status. Then pay as you earn. Don't think about anything foolish until you pay up in full and just work hard. If you keep yourself busy, you'll forget all your pains. I knew too well what she meant. I think she sensed the dangerous signal from me as I plopped down on the ashes as I downed the alcohol. So even though she had not intended to accept any payment from us, she used the debt as an excuse to make me get hold of myself and keep me by her side. When I realized her heart, I couldn't refuse her any longer. Thank you. I thank you so much. I'll repay for the rest of my life, so please stay healthy for Octasdo. That night, I was cleaning up the burnt-down joint in the ashes when the flea market merchants rushed toward me. At a glance, I could tell they heard the news about our granny. As I suspected, The merchants started to cry about their penniless situation from the fire, losing everything, and begged me to put in a word to Granny for help. However, I didn't need to listen to them any longer. For you to get into the new building, the smell from you is unbearable. It's a rotten smell inside you and sewage smell from your mouth. Even if you are able to get a space at the mart, wouldn't you be kicked out of your bad order? Then it seemed that they themselves also knew their wrongdoings, and all the merchants turned to leave without making a peep. I rested for a while to re-energize my body and mind. Then my husband returned safely from the ship, and we moved into the new mart and started our BBQ chicken restaurant. Granny does not come to our place. Instead, we go to her, regularly visit her to check for any discomfort and make sure she doesn't skip her meals. We are never late on our lease payment, and recently, we often make deliveries to her house. She says that our BBQ chicken is the best. That's how we became stabilized. We did not know anything about our granny's background or behaved with any payback expectation in return. We just treated her as a human, as any normal people should. A person is precious no matter what. These days, I think about my mom a lot. Tomorrow after closing, I plan to visit Granny. In life, such things do happen. Thank you for listening to my story. In these difficult times, I hope that you live each day with a warm heart. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. But have a nice day.